Buongiorno from Misano. We are here in Italy, and again, it's going to be a perfect day. The sun is shining, so it's going to be a hot day, and we are expecting another hot race just like yesterday. Now it's day 2, and of course, first we need to get qualifying, and as you can see, preparations are coming to an end. The drivers are being strapped in, so I guess we're almost ready to get qualifying, so let's do it. Here's your commentator.
Thank you, Verena. Hello, good morning. Ciao ragazzi. Misano, Andrea Dovizioso finishing a very creditable 12 in P1 yesterday, in race 1 yesterday. A very creditable performance from the MotoGP star who is with us here in Misano. And he won the MotoGP race here in 2018, of course, and has really made a jolly good fist of it in DTM. Has got quicker from practice to practice and then into qualifying, and as I say, finished race 1 yesterday in P12. What a fairy tale it was for this man, Marco Wittmann, in the race yesterday. He had problems during qualifying and in fact did not set a time in qualifying and therefore started from the pit lane, the very back of the grid for Marco Wittmann. But with the use of the safety car and extraordinary tyre management, he won the race. Absolutely amazing. So well done, Marco Wittmann, who now finds himself P2 in the Drivers' Championship. Just behind René Rast, who now leads the championship, courtesy of his P2 finish yesterday. And Philipp Eng, who came into this weekend P1, is now P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Danny Juncadella then. So Daniel Juncadella, who finished P13 in the race yesterday for our Motorsport 81 DTM races. He has competed in, and there is Bruno Spengler in the number 7 BMW. He was just off the podium yesterday, taking a P4. So Bruno Spengler completes his 15th DTM season. It's something of a celebration also for Marco Wittmann and for Timo Glock this weekend. More about that in the show this afternoon. As you can see, champing at the bit to get out is Danny Juncadella, followed by Jake Dennis. And that's a lovely shot through the windows of the lounges in the media centre of the car of Loic Duval. And there the crowds beginning to assemble for this day 2 of the DTM race action. And René Rast there is poised in the number 33 car, engineered of course by Audi Sport Team Rosberg. And try as he might yesterday, tried to take the win, but in the end had to settle and bank very good points for P2. Of course, he banked points in qualifying as well, putting the car in pole position. The team chief, as you can see, for Audi Sport Team Rosberg is Arno Zenzen. And there is Pietro Fittipaldi, who was drafted in to replace Jamie Green, the poorly Jamie Green this weekend. And Pietro Fittipaldi then should have been on F1 reserve driver duties in Montreal, but drafted back to get into that Jamie Green car. And Pietro Fittipaldi then in that car racing, of course, for Audi. Pietro finishing just outside the points, P11 yesterday. So Andrea Dovizioso then, as I said, he's just got quicker and quicker and quicker, and has been really, really determined. A great guy to have in the DTM cars, and has really taken it very, very seriously. Uber competitive. And really enjoyed his race yesterday, being coached by this man, Matthias Ekström. And there's kind of no better coach, is there, in terms of DTM and Audi, the champion from 2004 and 2007. Matthias Ekström, who I had the privilege of sitting down with and having an hour and a half long conversation for. We filmed an hour and a half long conversation with Matthias as he made his retirement from DTM, which was a very interesting conversation. A great guy and a hugely successful racing driver, of course, Matthias Ekström, and passing on that knowledge to Andrea Dovizioso for this weekend, which has served him very well, it has to be said. A great shot there through the rim of the Aston Martins, lining up right at the head of the pit lane. And we're inside the car of Marco Wittmann then, the RMG racer for BMW, who finds himself P2 in the Drivers' Championship now. On board with Jake Dennis in the number 76 car. Jake finishing, well, P15 yesterday. He'll be bitterly disappointed with that. He came off the back of his second race in Zolder, where he finished P6, but he'll be hoping to right the wrongs of yesterday today. So Jake Dennis, a phenomenal racing driver, and in that number 76 car, he provided so much entertainment in race 2 at Zolder. some brilliant overtakes. So it's all about the heat and the temperature here in Misano. Track temperatures yesterday reaching some 50 degrees as the splitter cam on the Jake Dennis car allows us a privileged view of the fairly challenging asphalt as they make their way down the pit lane, where you shortcut turns 1 and 2 and you come out at the Variante del Parco, turn number 3 from the pit lane, as Marco Wittmann, like Timo Glock, celebrating his 100th DTM start when they line up on the grid here in Misano today. He did tell you it was something of an anniversary for both Marco Wittmann and Timo Glock. Marco's confidence will be sky high then, following his extraordinary success yesterday. But one thing we do know about the DTM is you can never predict how day 2 is going to play out in comparison to race 1. You think it will give you a form guide, but it certainly doesn't. So Marco Wittmann followed out of the pit lane by René Rast and also Timo Glock, and then Jonathan Aberdeen, who also did a brilliant job in qualifying for WRT Audi. Jonathan Aberdeen qualified the car on P2. Got barged about in the first turn, and his race was really rather compromised from there on in. He managed to finish P8, but many of us thought that perhaps it would be Jonathan Aberdeen's first podium in DTM yesterday following a supreme qualifying session. He'll see what he can do today. On board with Andrea Dovizioso then. The look of determination and focus then on the MotoGP start as he makes his way out of pit lane and about to go qualifying to set his grid position for today's race. Weather conditions are absolutely perfect if you're a race fan and spectator, and welcome to all of you for joining us here at Misano. The first part of the DTM race action getting underway now with our qualifying session to set the grid for race number 2 to come this afternoon. And we're watching Andrea Dovizioso, who's weaving the car from side to side to generate temperature into those tyres. And there, once again, the splitter cam, which shows you the fairly abrasive asphalt here at the Misano circuit. So Jake Dennis then slows the car down to just under 80 kilometers per hour before being back on the loud pedal once again, taking as much curb as he dares, and just those little rumble strips there. And Jake Dennis completes his run through Sector 1 and heads along the long straight now, which is heading towards turn number 8. The left-hander, it's almost a hairpin where you come back upon yourself, and then another blast on the throttle pedal down towards turn number 9. It's turns 9 and 10, kind of a double apex affair here, the right-handers. And Jake turning the car in then, keeping to the middle of the track to give himself the perfect line. And and Andrea Dovizioso on cold tyres then has found the tyre barriers. So this is bad news. This is the car of Andrea Dovizioso then, of course, as the car has come out. We can see him weaving from side to side, trying to generate.
Tell me what I have to do on the back.
Trying to generate temperature into the tyres, and
On the middle.
maybe had a lock-up going into that turn.
Try to go in the middle. There's an engine.
Turn 14.
Gearbox manual mode in the middle. There you put it on manual, neutral, and then try to get out in reverse.
So the session has been
Now I
stopped.
have to put the reverse. You go on manual mode, gearbox, in the middle of the car, manual mode, gearbox manual mode, on the right-hand side. It's a big E, emergency E manual mode. Where is it?
And that was how it happened then, the lock-up.
And then you go into neutral, and you downshift to reverse. Where is the manual mode? When you use the manual mode, you go to neutral and then you reverse. You downshift to... Where is the manual mode? In the center console on the right-hand side. If the engine is still running, you need to watch the temperature. I don't found the manual mode. The engine, switch off the engine. If they can push you backwards, then we can maybe do another lap time. Maybe see if the marshals can push you backwards.
To be fair, it was a relatively light touch, and all brought about by the lockup. I thought he was going to be able to save it from there, but clearly he wasn't able to do so. And as you can see, there's virtually no damage to the car.
Slowly to the box, slowly to the box.
So the session has been reflagged as a consequence of Dovizioso then just glancing the tyre barriers. And the session's going to restart in exactly 4.5 minutes time. So that will give the WRT team time to look at the car of Andrea Dovizioso and then send him back out again. So no meaningful time set in the qualifying session, which has been brought to an abrupt halt because of Andrea Dovizioso with that lockup then.
Okay, come slowly to the box. We push you backwards into the garage, we check the car, and then we focus on one outing.
And of course what it does do, it does compromise the time available to the drivers with regards to qualifying, because you have to consider that they have to go out and do out laps before the meaningful lap times were there. As we look at that, doesn't look like there's any damage of any particular nature to the Andrea Dovizioso car, so it should all be absolutely fine. Here it is again. The lockup looked really, really dramatic. To be fair, he'd scrubbed so much speed off, I thought he was going to be able to save it, but once he was on the gravel, that was it, and the tyre barriers absorbed the energy. Then there was a...
I think the car is fine, we can go.
There was a huge issue
yeah,
with
well, let us just check the car, and we will focus on the one outing.
Engineers trying to...
we check and then we go out.
Where the manual mode was for the gearbox, so he could engage reverse and bring the car back to the garage. In the end, it was never found, but...
It's better to do 2 run.
Okay, we push. We change the tires, put fuel, and we need to check some data to be sure.
So the WRT team headed by Vincent Voss, of course.
Why you change the tire?
And Matthias Ekstrom inside the car, as you can see, having a conversation with Andrea Dovizioso.
I want to go on new to have a lap time, because if the best lap time comes now, I want to be on new. We check this tire, and maybe at the end we can still use this one. This is just a scrub.
So we are 2.5 minutes away from the session restarting then, and Andrea Dovizioso, there you can see confirmation the session will resume at 10:55. So Matthias Ekstrom, we could see inside the car, there he is, advising Andrea Dovizioso. And what's been critical for the team is to make sure that they can get all the gravel out of the car.
2 time lap on the second run. Also, if I have to do a slow lap, it's fine, but the important thing is to have 2 fast laps. If we can do also the first exit, is fine.
Copy.
So for us, listening in to the conversation going on between engineer and Andrea Dovizioso, there is Rennie Rast then. There is Marco Wittmann, who will join the queue of cars waiting to leave the pit lane. We are just a minute and a half away from the session restarting. So, Andrea Dovizioso being advised by 2-time DTM champion Matthias Ekstrom. Let's hear from him now.
I'm here with Matthias Ekström. You were coaching Andrea, so what was the problem exactly? Why? And do you think the car's going to be okay again?
Yeah, there was. I think he was just not woken up properly, so the tires are cold, and I think for a short moment he forgot that. He's used to tire heaters.
But all in all, I mean, how proud are you about how he's doing in the DTM, considering usually he's only handling 2 wheels?
Yeah, I think yesterday he had a good day, and qualifying pace was a little bit better than expected, and in the race I think everybody could see he was battling good, having a lot of fun, and let's see if he can improve a bit from that today, but at least now he's awake again. But luckily the car is in one piece and he can continue, as he didn't need any mechanical help, so the marshal just pushed him, and all good, so just go out and try again.
Thank you so much, Eki. Back to the commentator.
Thanks so much. Well, Andrea Dovizioso, no question about it, gleaning lots and lots of information from Matthias Ekstrom, who's cool as a cucumber, as always. Just the problem was Andrea had not woken up, according to Eki. Fantastic.
15 seconds.
So listening in to the radio traffic between Jake Dennis and his engineering team then. And, well, the session then will restart. Green light now. There we go.
It's tight to do 2 outings.
So with just 16 and a half minutes or just under remaining, it is going to be very, very tight for everyone in terms of qualifying. This may change the shape of this qualifying session.
The gear in the middle of the screen.
Now you have to bear in mind
Go to page 2.
Andrea Dovizioso is completely new to the DTM, and therefore all the technology that's inside the car is having to learn
I'm already page 2. It's like this. I have speed and gear.
furiously working on the screen.
I can't see the normal screen. I have the normal screen on the back, but in front there is speed and gear.
Can you shift through the gears? Go to page 1 and try back page 2.
Okay.
Ah, he's got it sorted.
Oh, cool. So let's focus on our times now. Gap is good, gap is good.
Bruno Spangler then, who's going to have a very short, sharp run in qualifying then, because he remains in the garage at the moment, as you can see, and the clock ticks down critically. We have less than 15 minutes, so driver's going to get 1, maybe 2 runs. So track position is going to be critical to make sure you've got space. And there on board the pit wall is Ernst Moser then, the team principal of Audi Sport Team Phoenix. Arno Zensen, of course, the team principal of Audi Sport Team Rosberg. It's, of course, in the WRT team running the Andrea Dovizioso car. There's Mike Rockefeller as he crosses the timing line. And we'll go for a run now. He's got track space ahead of him, because the next 2 cars up the road are Jake Dennis and Daniel Juncadella. But they're already into turn number 4 as Mike Rockefeller exits turn number 3, so he's not hampered by traffic ahead of him. So we keep our eyes on the bars on the left-hand side of your screen then, as Mike Rockefeller goes quicker than anyone through Sector 1, but that's to be expected because no one's really set a meaningful time yet. So Rocky completes Sector 1, brakes now for this left-hander before being back on the loud pedal again, runs really, really wide. So the number 99 car of Mike Rockefeller finishing in P6 yesterday. There is the car of Danny Juncadella, and there is Mike Rockefeller just ahead of Danny Juncadella. Is the car of Nico Muller, and you can see Mike Rockefeller furiously flashing his lights. He's on a fast lap, and he wants to make sure that Danny Juncadella does not compromise this lap. There is the Jake Dennis car number 76 for R Motorsport Aston Martin. And Jake Dennis then, cars look absolutely supreme. He rounds out the final turn and heads towards the timing line now to give us a benchmark time of 1:26.671. So for the moment, Jake Dennis is quickest. Expect that to be beaten by Mike Rockefeller. Sure enough, he goes a 1:26.073. So taking a full 7/10 out of the Jake Dennis time. So Mike Rockefeller on a hot lap. Philip Eng is on a hot lap as well. So too is Joel Eriksson, race winner in race 2 here at Misano last year. There is Philip Eng, who we ride on board with now for the BMW Team RMR. Rocky is quickest with that 1:26.073. Big braking from Philip Eng as he lifts and pushes the car through the turns, closes out that sector. So you can see Philip, his eyes are everywhere, making sure he positions the car absolutely perfectly around the final turn, turn number 16, heading towards the timing line now. And for Philip Eng, it was a second fastest time. He's just 3/100ths behind the pole sitting time and the new pole sitting time of Joel Eriksson. So BMW's P1 and P2 in the timing at the moment, with just under 12 minutes remaining in this quali session. So Joel Eriksson, 125.994, retired from the race yesterday, therefore wanting to right the wrongs of yesterday. And thus far, he's doing a very good job. But here comes Marco Wittmann then. As we go on board with him, he's gone faster than anyone in Sector 1. So we ride on board with Marco Wittmann. Robin Freins, another driver that was out of the race yesterday. And I spoke to him at breakfast this morning, and he said, when is my luck going to change, Dave? Just everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. So he's hoping to put it all right today. There's Loic Duval. So Wittmann then... personal best through Sector 2, and he was down on the Joel Eriksson time, so this is looking pretty positive for Marco Wittmann, but we're watching Loic Duval at the moment, who's currently 4th fastest. Robin Freins is also looking good as well. As you can see, he's done PB in Sector 2 as well, and he's down on the previous best-setting time, which Loic Duval now beats with a 125.767, so he goes fastest. Marco Wittmann bails out of the lap and comes into the pit lane. And we've got 10 3/4 minutes of the session remaining. We're hoping Robin Freins is going to complete the lap rather than bail it and come in, because it's looking like a good lap for Robin Freins as we pick him up now in the all-blue Audi. Robin Freins then goes second fastest with a 125.801. 3/100ths down on the Loic Duval. A number of drivers having their times cancelled because of failing to manage track limits on turns number 13, including René Rast and including Sheldon van der Linde. Add to that list, if you will, Timo Glock, and also the car of Ferdinand Habsburg. We're on board with René Rast now. René is currently 14th fastest, so we're expecting laps to come from René Rast. His time of 135.141 is just... even worth mentioning, truthfully. We know that as now Pietro Fittipaldi goes quickest with a 125.659. Sorry, interrupting my own thoughts then, but that was a blinding lap from Pietro Fittipaldi. Well done, sir. So, René Rast's fastest lap, of course, cancelled because of the turn 13 track limits issue. So that's why we're seeing that 135.141 time for René Rast, because his previous best time was taken away because of his excursion around turn number 13 and gaining a meaningful time advantage. But this man is on a flyer. Robin Freins then, quicker than anyone through Sector 1 and through Sector 2 and heading towards the timing line now from P3. Robin Freins goes to P1 with a 125.454. He's taken 2/10 out of the time of Pietro Fittipaldi, and Jonathan Aberdeen again is quick. And now René Rast nails it with a P2. So René Rast back to where he expected him to be. Andrea Dovizioso is currently P13. Pietro Fittipaldi then down to P4 now. So the order is Freins, Rast, Aberdeen, and then it is Pietro Fittipaldi. So Robin Freins then quickest man at the moment with 8.5 minutes of the session remaining. And what we have found across all of the DTM quali sessions this season is that you can try and improve on your best lap time, but in the second part of qualifying, when we expect the track to have rubbed in a little bit more, the better lap times do not come. So we could be looking at the fastest time there for Robin Freins. And of course, 3 valuable points you get for setting the fastest time and going for pole position. But you know, René Rast is going to have something to say about the Robin Freins time and the difference between them.
Almost tied with Freins.
3/100ths, that's all.
Fittipaldi on 4, Duval on 5. A lot of cars are in the pits at the moment, and I expect them to go out again.
But when they do go out again, will they be able to improve? Because that hasn't proven to be the case in quali so far this year. So, well, here comes René Rast into the pit lane then. Yesterday during qualifying, he chose to, once he'd set his fastest lap, which at that time was P1, René Rast chose to bank that and park the car and not go out again. I think this time he will be considering going out once again. But for the moment, we've got 7 minutes remaining in this quali session. And the quali session, which is being led by that car that you saw being pushed into the garage, Robin Freins, with a 125.454. Mike Rockefeller, P8. So it's a bit of an Audi lockout at the moment with Freins, Rast, Aberdeen, Fittipaldi, Duval, then Nico Muller. The best, well, the first 3 rows of the grid were all to stay this way, are all with Audi at the moment. The best of the BMWs is Joel Eriksson. And the best of the Aston Martin cars with Danny Juncker-Dea currently. So Bruno Spengler out for another run, so too Philipp Eng. And Philipp Eng then, who is P9, his lap time at the moment at 1:26.032, as you can see on screen, some 5 tenths down. So literally 5 tenths covering P1 to P9. So the Jake Dennis car is released from the garage and he's on his way out as well, just behind his teammate Paul Di Resta. And Jake Dennis's best time at 1:27.139 in P12 at the moment. Do bear in mind that in the race, Aston Martin are considered to be the manufacturer.
Jack, we're missing a bit the same in T10 compared to Danny, compared to yesterday. It's better, but it's still an improvement needed.
They are considered to be the cars that are kindest to the Hankook tyres. So turn 10 then is where Jake Dennis needs to find a bit of time. And out of the car then. And walking down the pit lane. No further part in qualifying, presumably, for Danny Juncker-Dea. P11 at the moment, and here comes Andrea Dovizioso once again, who's...
so Rast is out of the pits now.
P13. It's going to be fast and fraught to the end of qualifying then, under 5 minutes remaining. This is Marco Wittmann in replay. And this, the car of Danny Juncker-Dea.
So we have a car in turn 3 now. Back up, Müller out of the pit lane now.
And René Rast and Robin Freins. Robin Freins currently the quickest.
Behind.
A 1:25.454. This is Bruno Spengler that we're watching now then. As I've explained, the bars on the left-hand side of your screen right at the bottom. The colours we're looking for are purple and green. Purple means quicker than anyone. Green means personal best in terms of the times for each sector. And Bruno Spengler then delivers a personal best through Sector 1. He's still weaving from side to side to generate temperature into the Hankook tyres, as is Philipp Eng behind him. So we're expecting the next lap to be the one that really counts potentially for Bruno Spengler. 3 3/4 minutes remaining in the qualifying session, which is led by Robin Freins. Then it's René Rast. Literally just 3 tenths between them. Then it's Jonathan Aberdeen, again doing a very good job. Robin Freins in the pit lane. Now, generally speaking, when the drivers go for their second runs, they don't improve on previous runs. So whether Robin Freins feels that that time is safe and they're parking the car, Ferdinand Habsburg certainly is out of the car, as you can see. And he'll be taking no further part in the qualifying session. So a 1:27.325 for Ferdinand Habsburg, former single-seater star into the DTM for the first time this year with R Motorsport and Aston Martin. So Bruno Spengler's time, ignore that because better to come from Bruno Spengler. Bear in mind we've seen a number of lap times cancelled because of track limit excursions into turn number 13, the right-hander. We're on board with Marco Wittmann now. So buoyed with the confidence of that race win yesterday from plumb last on the grid, Marco Wittmann is currently 10th fastest and does a personal best, as does Bruno Spengler and Philipp Eng through Sector 1. And they are the only drivers out on track currently that are colouring up the blocks. and we have only 2 minutes of the session remaining. So Robin Freins, Rennie Rast, Rast can't improve. So Jonathan Aberdeen doesn't improve either. Pietro Fittipaldi is out, but his Sector 1 and Sector 2 are not brilliant. But Timo Glock is on a flyer through Sector 1. He's gone quicker than anyone through Sector 1 for BMW. Timo Glock, who will celebrate his 100th DTM start at race 2 this afternoon. What can Timo Glock find now? Rennie Rast has now done has done a better than anyone through Sector 2 as well. So in the final stages of this qualifying session, it's all beginning to heat up, and perhaps for the first time in DTM in 2019, we will see second runs become better than first runs. Here comes Marco Wittmann then to cross the timing line. He goes 5th fastest with a 1:25.764. This is the man we're keeping our eyes on now. Timo Glock then, quicker than anyone through Sector 1, a personal best through Sector 2. Will that be enough? He needs to have a really very good Sector 3, and he's about to close that out now as he heads to break the timing beam. Here comes Timo Glock from P18. Timo Glock goes to P8, so his personal best in Sector 3 was not enough to trouble the front runners at the moment. But here comes Rennie Rast then, quicker than anyone through Sector 1, PB in Sector 2. Can he bring enough home in Sector 3 to trouble the time of Robin Freins? Yes, he can. By 7/100ths, Rennie Rast goes quickest. So Rennie Rast fastest, Robin Freins second fastest. And there you could see the lockup came from Rennie Rast, which presumably compromised the lap. There's probably a little bit more in the car and a little bit more that he could find. Wittmann is on another hot lap. This will be his last one, as you can see. Sector 2, though, was not so brilliant for Marco Wittmann. Sector 1, though, was quicker than anyone. And Jonathan Aberdeen also has just gone quicker than anyone through Sector 1. Aberdeen, who's currently 3rd fastest with that previous time of 1:25.635, has done a 22.3 through Sector 1. Marco Wittmann rounds out with a top 5 or a 5th fastest time. So Jonathan Aberdeen, one to keep an eye on here in the number 27 car from WRT team. Did a brilliant job in qualifying yesterday and put the car P2. Well, Jonathan needs to make it all up in Sector 3. Sector 2 was not so brilliant for Jonathan Aberdeen. Brakes hard. Nico Muller now goes 3rd fastest. So it's Rast, Freins, Muller. Looking good for Audi here, as Jonathan Aberdeen has one more turn to do, turn number 16. And he will break the timing beam now. And Jonathan Aberdeen goes 3rd fastest and pushes Nico Muller back to P4 with a 1:25.584 for Jonathan Aberdeen. So for Audi then, it's Rast, Freins, Aberdeen, Muller, Fittipaldi. The top 5 places all belonging to Audi before we see Marco Wittmann. Then it's Loic Duval, Joel Eriksson, Philipp Eng, Timo Glock, Sheldon van der Linde, Mike Rockenfeller, Bruno Spengler, Andrea Dovizioso. Then it's Jake Dennis, Danny Junkadea, Paul di Resta, and Ferdinand Habsburg. So Rennie Rast is quickest with a 1:25.384. So pole position then for...
Okay, Jonathan, straight away, Parc Fermé, goes to the waiting bridge. Data stick, don't forget the data stick, please. Copy.
Pole position then for Rennie Rast. And confirmation of the results from qualifying then. Rennie Rast, pole position, 1:25.384. Then it was Robin Freins and Jonathan Aberdeen, again qualifying really well. Nico Muller and Pietro Fittipaldi ahead of Marco Wittmann, Loic Duval, Joel Eriksson, Philipp Eng, and Timo Glock rounding out the first 5 rows of the grid. Ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, Mike Rockenfeller, Bruno Spengler, Andrea Dovizioso, Jake Dennis, Danny Junkadea, Paul di Resta, and Ferdinand Habsburg. So Rennie Rast then pretty pleased with that performance in qualifying.
But first the car is in park for me, the rest I will forward.
Marco Wittmann then in the garage. And the cars we will see in the Parc Ferme area will be the cars of René Rast. Robin Frijns, of course, had already parked the car in the garage, and the car of Jonathan Aberdeen. Another very, very good job in qualifying for Jonathan Aberdeen. Pietro Fittipaldi out of the car, as you can see. Pietro Fittipaldi going 5th fastest. And Jonathan Aberdeen makes his way out of the car. Has done a really good job in qualifying across this weekend. Really getting it absolutely nailed. A 125.584 then, just 2 tenths down on René Rast. And there he is, Robin Frijns, looking pretty cool. Say, I had a conversation with him at breakfast this morning. Dave, when is the luck going to change? Well, maybe the first part of it has come in qualifying. Robin. And there is the number 4 car, which has given him that 125.454 time for P2. Drivers all being weighed. There's Bruno Spengler on his way out of the away garage. And the top 3 in super slow-mo. P3 with a 125.584, Jonathan Aberdeen. P2 for the number 4 Audi, driven by Robin Frijns. Jonathan Aberdeen then, another very creditable quality performance. Let's hear from him.
So here I am with Jonathan Aberdeen. Congratulations, P3. That's looking very promising. How does it feel, and what's your gut feeling for the race?
Oh, it feels great. Obviously, had a good qualifying yesterday and kind of continued that over today. For the race, expecting some tyre degradation, similar to yesterday. So I think it'll be about just managing the tyres and lasting to the end.
Well, best of luck, though, for the race. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Back to you.
He really has nailed qualifying this weekend. It's been a brilliant qualifying performance. Well done, Jonathan. Congratulated by René Rast, who's something of a quali and race master, of course. Here comes the grid then for our race to come this afternoon. A front row lockout for Audi with René Rast and Robin Frijns going from P1 and P2. The Audi domination continues with Jonathan Aberdeen and Nico Müller then going from P3 and P4 ahead of Pietro Fittipaldi and the best of the BMWs, yesterday's race winner, Marco Wittmann. He goes from P6. Then we find Loic Duval and Joel Eriksson, who won this race last year, second race here in Misano. Then it's Philip Eng and Timo Glock going from P9 and P10. Sheldon van der Linde and Mike Rockefeller occupy the 6th row of the grid, P11 and P12. Ahead of Bruno Spengler and Andrea Dovizioso, P13 and P14. Jake Dennis is the best of the Aston Martin Vantage cars with Danny Juncadella alongside him, both ahead of Paul di Resta and Ferdinand Habsburg. And that's the way the grid will look for this afternoon's race, which should be 55 minutes plus 1 lap. However, the race control have the ability to extend the race, as indeed they did yesterday, if there is a safety car period, as we see René Rast and Robin Frijns and Jonathan Aberdeen posing for the photographs then. A fine qualifying performance from them. And the best of them all was this driver, a 125.384. Absolutely nailed it in qualifying. Can he do the same in the race? Let's hear from him now, René Rast.
So here's the pole setter, René Rast. It's looking so smooth when you do that, and I mean, it's just going really well for you. Wow.
It's not that smooth in the car, I tell you. It's a lot of pressure, and for me as well, it's a lot of work. And the last lap, the pole lap was not very clean, so I was surprised that I was on pole actually. But yeah, nevertheless, perfect qualify, pole position, 3 points. That's good. Robin and Nico directly behind me, that's also positive. So yeah, it's good.
So looking forward to the race. Thank you so much, René. And yeah, now enjoy the highlights of the qualifying and make sure to watch the race in just a bit. So see you then. Bye-bye.